Well, when I was in high school, I went on a mission trip with the United Methodist Church to Mexico and Costa Rica. And to be quite frank, the reason why I went was just a sort of opportunity for travel. There was no real deep social commitment, just a free trip. It created a great deal of cognitive dissonance, in that the experience I had was quite different than the way I had perceived the world before that trip. I was exposed to the realities of North-South relationships between the United States and Mexico and Central America. And I had the experiences of witnessing things that was very different than the way the State Department, the executive branch, or NBC News said it was. And so that created that discomfort between the way I thought the world was and the reality I was presented with. So I became very passionate about how to do North-South relationships and how to engineer transformational experiences, as well as utilize those resources and energy as part of a social change strategy. When I went to Nicaragua, I met a Jesuit priest who was in exile from Guatemala. And he made the comment that it's great for you North Americans to come down here to gain experience, to get your batteries charged, but there's really lots of people here who are quite capable and competent to solve problems here. Whereas the real issue is in the United States, because it doesn't matter if you give out food or build a clinic. The real policies that decide our quality of life and our length of life is decided in Washington, New York, Brussels. So if you really want to impact, if you really want to affect change, you need to work in your country on the systems that perpetually marginalize a significant portion of the world's population to poverty and marginalization. So that led to the whole idea or creation of Highland Support Project, and that has been an underlying pursuit of ours, is to go beyond just critique and to go beyond theorizing, to actually endeavor to create the economic models, the business models, the programming models. So we see ourselves much more as program innovators. And our service learning program is an example of that, what we call Highland Partners. And we start with the question, what is poverty? For us, poverty is the inability to take advantage of opportunities. And a lot of what we identify as poverty is actually consequences. So the activity of doing a problem tree is to try to discover what is the root cause and what are consequences. So things like malnutrition, lack of education, lack of sanitation, we see these all more as consequences of a question of power, a question of opportunity. Working in communities like the Highlands of Guatemala, you really gain an appreciation for the importance of organizational infrastructure. In that, if you do not have the local organizational structure to act, it's very hard for individuals to make an impact. And so our outcome, what we are seeking to achieve, is empowered women in Highland communities that are capable of acting with agency. So for example, the first project we do with women is building stoves. We build stoves that are much larger than those stoves that are distributed for free by the government, for example, because the purpose of our stoves is not only to save fuel and to eliminate the environmental cause of illness, the smoke, but we are seeking to save women a significant amount of time and energy. In the United States, women here did not have the suffrage movement until they had labor-saving devices in their homes that provided them with the free time to become educated and organized. So if you're working with women and you are not dealing with those domestic issues, then you are burdening the woman with an impossible, you're looking for people to be superhuman, to not only participate in the PTA and to go to trainings, but also do all the domestic chores that are associated with indigenous women in the culture. Just anecdotal from experience of working with women, that it saves them around 5 hours a day of domestic labor. With those stoves, as the initiation of the process with the women receive stoves and as part of receiving the stoves, women participate in a 6-month programming that's largely related to self-esteem. That's a second significant issue that we have encountered, is that many indigenous women in a colonial context have internalized negative messages. Many women devalue themselves for being native. They blame their native culture as the cause of their poverty. Looking at Spanish conquest, colonialism, up to the current media, part of this is like the Catholic Church, for example, during the colonial period had a concept called naturales, that white people, Europeans, are created in God's image, so they're divine. Whereas natives are like monkeys, they're naturals. They're not divine creatures. And to really experience someone who has internalized that negative message is quite shocking. So the first part of our programming is specifically aimed at behavioral health and conducting programming to improve the self-esteem and agency of women.